Somebody killed my baby. Somebody that never even had a fight before in her life.
The day was May 3rd, 2021.
May 3rd was the worst day of my life.
Now a month later,
My mommy at the hospital.
Oh, mommy in the hospital?
I'm so broken. I'm so torn.
this grieving mother, Darlene Dukes,
My life has changed forever.
is pleading for someone, anyone, to come forward with information about her daughter's murder.
They took away a wonderful person.
Before we start, I need y'all to know LaShante was just like any of us, working her TSA job, raising her baby, trying to do right. But jealousy and greed turned her everyday life into a nightmare.
Somebody killed my baby. Somebody that never even had a fight before in her life. I'm so broken. I'm so torn. I did the best with my children as a single mom. And I did a wonderful job. Please, y'all, say something.
These words came from a mother's broken heart. But what happened next? Girl, the man who pulled that trigger really had the nerve to record himself counting the money he got paid for taking a life. We're talking about a hired killer who shot down a 24-year-old mother and her 3-year-old daughter right after she clocked out from work. This happened in the late hours of May 3rd. LaShante Jones, a TSA agent who worked hard every single day, had just finished her shift and was heading home to her apartment in the Coral Bay Cove area of Southwest Miami-Dade. All she wanted was a quiet evening with her little one, but instead a masked man was waiting to destroy everything she had built. As they walked toward their door, this coward ambushed them, shot them down in cold blood. But here's the part that's going to make your blood boil. Just hours after the attack, this fool posted a video online. In it, he's grinning into the camera, showing off the cash he got paid, bragging about the job he just did. Now, y'all, what looked like some random violence, that was just the surface. When investigators started digging, they found out this was a whole murder-for-hire plot. We're talking about betrayal, secrets, and someone who used pandemic relief money to pay for a hit. Let me tell you something. This story is going to show you just how deep jealousy and revenge can go. This is the story of LaShante Jones and the woman who wanted her dead so bad she was willing to pay for it. LaShante Jones was 24 years old and from Miami. Everyone who knew her would tell you the same thing. This girl had an infectious spirit. She was sociable, free-spirited, and full of love. LaShante had loyalty in her DNA and kindness that just radiated from her. The bond she had with her mother and siblings, that was everything to her. You know those people who just light up a room when they walk in? That was LaShante. Her smile was contagious and she made everyone around her feel good. She cherished her relationships and put her heart into everything she did. LaShante believed in hard work and grinding for what you want. She started out working at Walmart, but she had bigger plans. She moved up to a position with the Transportation Security Administration, that's TSA, working for the Department of Homeland Security at Miami International Airport. She took real pride in that job because she knew she was helping keep people safe. But here's what made LaShante's world complete. In July 2017, she welcomed her daughter Aliyah into the world. Now listen, that little girl became the center of LaShante's entire universe. She poured all her energy into raising Aliyah, making sure that baby felt loved and cared for every single day. Motherhood was LaShante's greatest joy, and she put her daughter's needs before everything else. Sadly, little Aliyah would end up witnessing the day her mother was taken away from her. Now, here's where things get real. On May 3rd, 2021, LaShante was doing what she did every day, coming home after her shift at Miami International Airport. She had picked up little Aliyah from her sister's house and was heading back to their apartment for some quiet family time. Just a regular Monday evening, nothing special. As she pulled into the parking lot at her apartment complex in Coral Bay Cove, she was probably thinking about dinner, maybe giving Aliyah a bath, just normal mom stuff. The surveillance cameras caught her walking toward their apartment, carrying her 3-year-old baby girl. But y'all, that was the last normal moment of her life. A dark gray Nissan Sentra pulled up beside her car. Moments later, gunshots rang out through that parking lot. LaShante was hit multiple times. Little Aliyah, who was right there with her mama, got grazed by a bullet but survived. LaShante's body was found lying near the foot of a staircase. The bloodstain stayed on that ground for hours. This was broad daylight, and this fool just walked up and opened fire like her life meant nothing. The surveillance footage showed everything. The gunman, dressed in dark clothes, approached LaShante's car and just started shooting. Killed her instantly, right in front of her baby. When LaShante's mother got that phone call, the whole community started asking the same questions we're all thinking. Who would want LaShante dead and why? This was a young mother who didn't have enemies. She was well-liked, hard-working, just trying to provide a better life for her daughter. But what investigators found out next showed this wasn't random at all. This was part of something much bigger and much more calculated.
What man in his right mind would chase a woman with a baby to murder her?
That's what LaShante's family wanted to know, because the truth is, it takes a special kind of evil to target a mother carrying her child.
My baby had a future. Somebody took from her. I did the best with my children as a single mom, and I did a wonderful job. Please, y'all, say something.
LaShante's family stood outside Miami-Dade Police Headquarters begging for help. The reward had been increased to $10,000, but they needed more than money. They needed answers.
What man in his right mind would chase a woman with a baby?
That's the question that haunted everyone, because as investigators started digging deeper, they found out this wasn't some random street crime. A name kept coming up in their investigation: Jasmine Martinez. Now listen to this. Police discovered that Jasmine had a whole history with LaShante. Back in 2018, Jasmine had been arrested for assaulting LaShante. So these two already had bad blood, but what happened next was going to take this to a whole different level. According to investigators, Jasmine wasn't just involved. She was the mastermind behind LaShante's murder. Her motives? Pure vendetta from their past conflicts. But here's where it gets really wild. Investigators found out this wasn't just about personal beef. Jasmine had allegedly set up a murder-for-hire plot using money from a Paycheck Protection Program loan. Girl, let that sink in. This woman used pandemic relief money, money that was supposed to help struggling businesses during COVID, to pay someone to kill LaShante. Jasmine had withdrawn over $10,000 in cash from that loan right before the shooting. The arrest warrant showed she used that money to pay for the hit on LaShante. But the story gets even crazier. Not only had Jasmine been arrested in 2018 for assaulting LaShante, but after a court hearing in early 2020, LaShante became an even bigger target. See, LaShante had testified against Kelly Nelson, Jasmine's ex-boyfriend, and that's when things really got dangerous. LaShante was being harassed and offered money not to testify against Nelson. But you know what? LaShante stood firm. She continued to fight for justice, not knowing how close danger was getting to her door. According to the investigation, Nelson had been involved in a robbery, and LaShante testified about it. After her brave testimony in court, Jasmine allegedly swore to have her killed. That's the kind of evil we're dealing with here. But wait, there's more. Jasmine didn't work alone. She had her boyfriend Romeo Robinson acting as the middleman. Romeo reached out to Javon Carter, a man with a violent criminal history, and together they planned this murder. Now get this. On March 25, 2021, just days before the murder, LaShante was approached by this same group. They offered her money to take back her testimony. When that didn't work, they threatened her with violence if she didn't comply. But LaShante, as she remained strong, she refused to back down and stood firm in her decision to tell the truth. That courage cost her everything. The most chilling discovery was a phone conversation from February 11, 2021. Investigators found a call between Jasmine and her ex-boyfriend Kelly Nelson. Jasmine's anger toward LaShante had been building for years, but it wasn't until February 2020, after LaShante gave her deposition against Nelson for witness tampering, that Jasmine snapped. In that phone call from jail, Jasmine said she was ready to kill LaShante herself. Romeo Robinson made arrangements for Javon Carter to carry out the hit. These people went to great lengths to coordinate this murder, using coded language to discuss their plans. On April 20th, 2021, Robinson reached out to Javon to negotiate a price for the job. Phone records showed them discussing numbers and the value of the hit like they were talking about any other business transaction. Javon Carter, with his violent history and willingness to do whatever it took, became the key player in a plot that would destroy families. Jasmine's part was simple: withdraw that money from the federal relief loan she had gotten for her beauty parlor. Let me tell you something. Jasmine owned a beauty parlor and had gotten a $15,000 PPP loan that was supposed to help businesses during the pandemic. Instead, she used it to fund murder. That's beyond disgusting. But here's what really showed how stupid these people were. After the shooting, Javon recorded a video on his phone where he's seen counting a large sum of money. This fool really documented his payment for taking a life. Evidence from the scene, including Javon's phone records and surveillance footage, placed him at that apartment complex at the exact time of the shooting. The video he made counting that blood money, that was just icing on the cake for prosecutors. In June 2021, all three conspirators, Jasmine Martinez, Romeo Robinson, and Javon Carter, were arrested and charged with first-degree murder for LaShante's death. Romeo and Jasmine also faced charges for witness tampering and conspiracy to commit murder. Jasmine tried to deny any involvement in the murder, but the evidence was overwhelming. Phone records, bank withdrawals, and that video footage tied all three suspects to the crime. An anonymous tip had also identified Javon as the gunman, confirming the timeline investigators had built. Here's something that shows you the type of people we're dealing with. Romeo Robinson had served 11 years in prison for armed robbery and aggravated assault before being released in 2020. He was back in trouble just months before the murder, arrested on suspicion of drug trafficking. This man was supposed to be rebuilding his life, but instead he chose to destroy someone else's. Each defendant faced multiple charges, including first-degree murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder. They're being held awaiting trial, and Jasmine's involvement in witness tampering became a key focus because that's what started this whole deadly chain of events. But here's what really gets me: the psychological toll this trial is taking on LaShante's loved ones. Her family has to relive this nightmare every single day, and little Aliyah will grow up without her mother because of pure jealousy and greed. The Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office was determined to prosecute this case to the fullest extent of the law, with phone records, bank withdrawals, and that incriminating video of Javon counting his blood money. The evidence was rock solid. But for LaShante's family, this trial meant reliving their worst nightmare over and over again. Her mother, Darlene Dukes, had to sit in that courtroom and hear the details of how her daughter was hunted down like an animal.
My mommy at the hospital.
Oh, mommy in the hospital?
I'm so broken. I'm so torn.
This grieving mother, Darlene Dukes,
My life has changed forever.
Little Aliyah, now without her mother, still had bullet fragments in her leg and lower back. This baby clearly remembered everything that happened that day. When her grandmother asked her about it, Aliyah would say things like, "And when we get the bad guy, mommy gonna be happy, right? That breaks your heart, doesn't it?" A 3-year-old thinking that catching the killer would bring her mama back. LaShante's murder sent shockwaves through the Miami community and beyond. People were outraged that someone would use PPP loan money, money meant to help Black businesses survive the pandemic, to pay for a hit. Community leaders rallied around the Jones family, and calls for justice reform grew louder. People started asking hard questions about how pandemic relief programs could be exploited for criminal purposes. The fact that Jasmine Martinez took funds meant to help struggling businesses and used them to destroy a family, that hit different. This case also highlighted the dangerous reality of witness tampering and retaliation. LaShante had been brave enough to testify in court against Kelly Nelson, and that courage cost her everything. Despite being threatened and offered bribes, she stood firm in her decision to tell the truth. But here's what really gets me: the system failed her. She was a federal employee working for Homeland Security. She was a witness for the prosecution who had been threatened. Where was her protection? Why was she allowed to continue living her normal life when these people had already shown they were willing to hurt her? Y'all, this case exposed some serious problems in our justice system. When someone testifies in court and then gets threatened, what happens next? In LaShante's case, not enough. People in the comments were asking the same questions. Why wasn't she moved to a safe location? Why wasn't she given protection after being threatened? These are federal charges we're talking about. She worked for Homeland Security, but somehow the system that was supposed to protect her let her down. LaShante's death became a symbol of what happens when people try to do the right thing but don't get the support they need. Social media campaigns spread calling for justice and raising awareness about retaliation violence in our communities. Her family used their pain to advocate for changes in how law enforcement handles witness tampering cases and violence against women. They partnered with local organizations to make sure their voices were heard and that the law became more preventive, not just reactive. A funeral was held for LaShante following her tragic death in May 20. Her family, loved ones, colleagues from TSA, and members of the Miami-Dade community came together to remember her life. A year later, they held a vigil at Demps Park in Goulds, Florida, where family and friends gathered to honor her memory and continue demanding justice. LaShante's mother, Darlene Dukes, made it clear that the fight for justice wouldn't end with a courtroom verdict. For them, this was about more than holding killers accountable. It was about ensuring LaShante's legacy lived on. I did the best with my children as a single mom, and I did a wonderful job. Those words from a grieving mother say everything. LaShante was raised right. She was taught to stand up for what's right, to work hard, and to take care of her family. She did all of that, and it cost her everything. But here's what LaShante's story teaches us. Doing the right thing shouldn't be a death sentence. Testifying in court shouldn't make you a target. Using pandemic relief money to fund murder shows just how low some people will go. The grief of losing LaShante will never go away for her family, but they're determined to turn their pain into purpose. They want to make sure no other family has to go through what they've been through. LaShante's case also shows us the failures in our system that allow people to exploit public resources for evil purposes. How many more innocent lives will be lost before we demand real reform? As for little Aliyah, she's growing up without her mother's loving presence, but she's surrounded by a family determined to keep LaShante's memory alive. That little girl will know that her mama was brave, that she stood up for what was right, and that she loved her more than anything in this world. LaShante Jones was just 24 years old when her life was violently taken. She was a TSA agent, a devoted mother, a woman who believed in doing the right thing even when it was dangerous. Her murder was a senseless tragedy that exposed the darker side of human nature, how jealousy, revenge, and greed can lead to irreversible consequences. But through the heartbreak, her family found strength. They continue seeking justice while working to ensure this kind of violence doesn't take root in the next generation. The battle may not be over, but the truth is out. LaShante's fight for justice will not be in vain. Her story serves as a powerful reminder that no one deserves to die because of hate, jealousy, or greed. Rest in peace, LaShante Jones. Your courage won't be forgotten, and your legacy will live on through your daughter and everyone whose life you touched. As for Jasmine Martinez, Romeo Robinson, and Javon Carter, they threw away their lives for what? A few $1,000s? The temporary satisfaction of revenge? Now they're facing life in prison or worse, all because they couldn't let a good woman live in peace. That's the real tragedy here. So many lives destroyed because some people chose evil over everything else.